Good morning. Another hot and sunny day in Hong Kong. Talking about two films today. August is typically a slow time for movies to be released because everybody's on vacation. Nobody really wants to go to the movies. Um, and this year seems to be no exception. So it's a bit light, but there's a lot coming. In fact, I've seen two films already this week, and I've got four more Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week. So there's a lot coming. So this week I'm going to talk about one film that's available on various streaming services called Wildlife, and the second film I'll talk about is a film that's got a lot of history to it, both on screen and off screen, or behind the screen and off behind the screen and in the story. Let's put it that way. Called The Current Wars. But first, Wildlife. Now, I don't know if you've heard about this. It premiered last year, so 2018, beginning of 2018, at the Sundance Film Festival. It came here to Hong Kong almost a year ago, last September, as part of the Sundance Film Festival in Hong Kong. It came for two screenings, so if you blinked, you missed it. But the film's gone on to win quite a few festival and Critics' Choice awards, both for the director and one of the actors, and I'll get to them in a moment. And yeah, I think, as I said, it's now available on some streaming services. I don't think it's on Netflix, but it's on the other ones. I know it's on YouTube. I know it's on Amazon Prime. Probably on a few others. Might be on Netflix. Not available on Netflix in Hong Kong, though. That much I know. And it's something you might want to check out. So the story is, now I'll just talk a little bit about a background. The question that's asked in this film is, do you know what they call trees that remain standing after a fire sweeps through a forest? Now, this is what Jeanette Brinson, played by Carey Mulligan, people would know her probably best from the film An Education. But she was also in Inside Llewyn Davis. She's been in quite a few films. This is the question that her character, Jeanette Brinson, puts to her 14-year-old son, Joe, who's played by Ed Oxenbould, who is Australian apparently, but he does a good American accent, in this film Wildlife. And this is the directorial debut of actor Paul Dano, who people would know from There Will Be Blood, 12 Years of Slave. He's been in quite a few films. He's one of these actors, you might not know his name, but you definitely know his face. Now, the answer to that question about what they call trees that remain standing after a forest fire, she says they're called the standing dead. And that's exactly how she feels after her husband Jerry, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, who everybody knows. So he's been in Spider-Man Far From Home, The Sisters Brothers, Life, Demolition, lots of films. So after her husband Jerry temporarily leaves them to go fight a wildfire on the U.S.-Canada border. So she feels she's a standing dead. Now, the story is, the time is 1960, and the Brinsons live a quiet, lower middle class existence in a small town in Montana. Jerry's a golf pro at a local club. Jeanette is a stay-at-home housewife and mom. And Joe is an average student, nothing special, doesn't shoot up the school or anything, at a local high school. And their Norman Rockwell existence starts unraveling very quickly, mind you, when Jerry loses his job after he hustled some of the club's members. Not that they minded, but it was against club policy, and that pushes Joe and Jeanette to go find part-time work to make ends meet while Jerry gets back on his feet. And when Jerry does decide to go fight this fire and leaves them, Jeanette decides it's time for big life changes, and she throws herself at Warren Miller, who's played by Bill Camp, who was in Vice and Red Sparrow, and he's Elizabeth Marvel's husband. Didn't know that. He's a well-off businessman whose wife left him years earlier. Now, for Joe, young Joe, it's the first time that he sees his parents as people who are imperfect. We all have this vision growing up that our parents are perfect, or our parents are virgins, and all this sort of crap. And he grows up, let's say, in a rather harsh way. So, as I said, this film came out last year and didn't really get a cinema release, which is rather sad because I think it's a really good film. And as good as Oxenbolt. I think Oxenbolt. So as I said, the film received a lot of praise, both for Dano on his first directorial film and on Oxenbolt, who was 16 years old at the time that the film was made. I would say it's Carey Mulligan who delivers the best performance of anybody. They're all good, but she is the best. And many people agree with me. They call this as her best on-screen performance ever. I don't know, best, but very good, very very good. And Oxenbolt, and look, and even Jake Gyllenhaal. He doesn't. He's only in at the beginning and at the end, but he's also good. So it's a bit shocking, not just for young Joe, but for us in the audience watching how quickly that Jeanette's Betty Crocker facade crumbles away once her husband leaves, and this only illustrates to Joe just how fragile his parents' marriage really is, and how complicated, or perhaps how human the two of them are. And it's a lesson that he takes in with surprising maturity. A lot of pain, but a lot of maturity. So, as I said, if you missed seeing this when it was on the festival circuit, don't sweat it. It's available now on pay-per-view streaming services. As I said, it's available on YouTube, Amazon Prime. I'm sure there's a few others, probably Netflix in the States. I would say check it out because it is a really good film. Wildlife. I liked it, and you should too. So that's the first one. Second one, big film. Well, actually, the big film opening here this week. There's not a lot opening here this week, but this is the big one. Is The Current War. Now, The Current War. You may have heard about this film for a long, long time because it's been sitting on a shelf for a while. This was one of the casualties related to the demise of the Weinstein Company in the wake of the Me Too movement from last year, 2 years ago. It's been a lot has happened. So the film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival just short of 2 years ago, September 2017, and was originally set for release at the end of that year. It was reported at the time that Harvey Weinstein himself was involved in the re-editing of the film when the sexual abuse allegations against him became, public. And so the film, as I said, sat on a shelf for a while until it was bought by Lantern Entertainment. Lantern Entertainment bought the assets of the Weinstein Company, which included this film, in October 2018. So 10 months ago, they bought this film. But I think it still had to be re-edited. I'm sure it should be re-edited. And director Alfonso Gomez Rejon, I think it's Rejon, he said that since the film premiered in 2017, 5 additional scenes were added and 10 minutes of runtime were cut. So the film is now out commercially. It opened here yesterday, and it's making its way around the world. And the big question is, was it worth the wait? No. So the current, I just gave it away. The Current War tells the story of the race to bring electricity to America's cities in the late 1800s. On the one hand, you had the prolific inventor Thomas Alva Edison, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. Everybody knows who he is. And on the other side, you have entrepreneur George Westinghouse. Hey, now you know who the Westinghouse Company. Now you know the origins of the Westinghouse Company. George Westinghouse, who's played by Michael Shannon, who was in The Shape of Water. He was a bad guy in The Shape of Water. He was in Elvis and Nixon. He was Elvis in Elvis and Nixon. So Edison, who invented the light bulb, plans to use direct current, or DC, to power his electrical grid. But Westinghouse's plan is to use alternating current, AC, on his grid, which is far more economical. So not surprisingly, cities are flocking to Westinghouse's plan rather than Edison's plan. And this pushes Edison to resort to smear tactics to create uncertainty regarding the safety of using AC. He said it was unreliable and it could cause electrocution, and he demonstrated it quite graphically on animals. Such was the time. But you know what? No animals were harmed in the making of this film. Now, in the middle of this rivalry is Serbian-American inventor and fabulous dresser Nikola Tesla. You know, there's so much what's wrong with this film. Nikola Tesla is played by Nicholas Hoult, who's probably best known for The Favorite, for my generation, best known for The Favorite. I think he was in one of those uh, teen lit series. I think he was in Hunger Games or something like that, but I never saw it, so I don't know. But I know him from The Favorite. Now, Tesla has his own inventions to make electricity more affordable and accessible to everyone, and their war comes to a head as Edison and Westinghouse compete to win the right to illuminate the 1893 Chicago Fair. That's what the story is all about. Now, when the film is made, as I'm watching this film, I'm thinking, oh my God, there's so much that's wrong with this film. There's so much that not that it's wrong, that missed opportunity or something, But as I was thinking about it, when the film is made one day about Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, about their race to dominate space travel, I hope it'll be more inspiring and exciting than this film is. I mean, this should have been exciting. It should have been inspiring. It was, oh my God, it was a real mess. The current war is as interesting as a 5-watt light bulb, and I don't mean the LED kind. I'm talking about the incandescent kind. It's surprising. I mean, given the subject matter and the legends who are involved in this was really dim, to play on this theme of electricity, of lighting. I thought it's hard to imagine how boring this film must have been for the audience in Toronto who saw this film 2 years ago before it was edited to what I saw last week. You would think after the editing it was improved. If it was, oh my God, horrible. And I don't even know where the fault lies with this film, because there's so much that's bad about this film. It's like the story by Michael Mitnick, it completely lacks tension. The cinematography by Chung Kyun, Korean cinematographer who did Me and Earl and The Dying Girl, which also is the same director. This director also directed that film. Love that film. But what he does, the cinematographer does, is he uses these offbeat camera angles, which he also did in Me and Earl and The Dying Girl. But it worked for that film. You needed to have quirky camera angles for that film. You don't need to have quirky camera angles for this film or for every film that you do. So that was really crazy. You had Benedict Cumberbatch, who has this faux American accent. He's British, of course, but he's got this American accent that makes him sound like Dennis Quaid being a carnival barker. As I was watching him, going, who does he sound like? And I thought, Dennis Quaid, that's who it is. And even Tom Holland, who's in this film, and Tom Holland from Spider-Man films, he plays Edison's right-hand man, Samuel Insull. He doesn't fare much better because he comes across like Peter Parker wearing a scratchy wool suit and mutton chop sideburns. So, just so much was bad. And perhaps the only actor I actually liked, and I don't even like this actor, is Catherine Waterston, who's in the Fantastic Beasts franchise. She was in Logan Lucky. I actually liked her in that. Alien Covenant, Steve Jobs, Queen of Earth. I liked her in Queen of Earth. But generally, I do not like her as an actress, as an actor. I liked her in this one, but it's all relative because everybody else was so horrible. So she plays Westinghouse's better half, Marguerite. And as I was thinking about what to call her, I mean, she was more than his wife, and she was more than his equal. She was amazing. If this is true, she was amazing. And we all know Westinghouse's name, but we don't know her name. And honestly, she, in a different age, she would have been a force in her own right. But you know what? This is a film about man. It's a film about men who have ideas. And both Marguerite and Edison's wife, Mary, played by Tuppence Middleton, who was also in The Imitation Game, by the way, they have very little to do by comparison. So I would say, who am I going to blame for this? I would say the director. And as much as I liked his film, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, I hate this film. This just didn't generate a spark at all. This is a really, really disappointing film. It's a film that should have stayed on the shelf or edited again, or I don't know. I don't know what they could have done with this film, because you got to figure if it's been edited so many times and scenes are added and cut and whatever. Thank God 10 minutes runtime was taken out because it was long enough. Um, this really was a mess. So I do not recommend this film at all, The Current War, unless you're a glutton for punishment or you're sitting on an airplane for 2 hours and you got nothing better to do. I forget how long it is. But that's my take on it. So if you're gonna see anything this week, I would say stay home and watch Wildlife, because this one is not worth your time or money. So that's it. I think no, I don't know. Next week, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know, as I said at the beginning, I got a lot of films that I'm watching over the next week, and I think it's October the 6th, if I remember my calendar correctly. There's like 8 films opening that day. I can't believe it. I think at some point the distributors are going to go, okay, we got to move this one, got to move this one, got to move this one. But as of right now, I think 8 films are opening on October the 6th, which is insane. So I'm sure that'll change. So anyhow, have a good week, have a good day, have a good weekend. Don't get into any protests and don't get tear gas fired at your face. See ya.